Anywhere you want.
Anywhere, yeah.
At the peanut gallery somewhere?
Where's the peanut gallery? That sounds fun.
Anywhere, Christine.
I want to be here now, so I want to be over here.
It's up to
I
you.
did not charge well.
Hi, Joe.
Hi, Kathy.
Ooh, these are nice chairs.
Right?
Is that gonna,
You want your back to the screen, man?
is that gonna be?
Well, I
on
want an outlet.
He said he's gonna
we
put his
got-
daughter
I
to
can
sleep
use that
tonight,
one.
so he's not gonna be on tonight.
Are they, he said what?
No, they're not.
To sleep during
Saving
this
it for
time.
you.
So he says he's not going to. But I told him it's recorded, so I'll send him the recording.
Yeah, on the side.
Right.
Last time.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to get a little more.
But Mel, you're on
Fit
the
myself.
agenda, you're gonna talk about.
That's gonna be, your
Hey, right here. There you go.
Louder than
Oh,
that.
you're totally good.
Pressure.
The
good, yeah, makes
second one
noise.
before
That's
reading
right. Show the
your
bottle a
whole
bit.
Oh,
notes.
you are all good.
And I was,
Oh, you do that on
What's up?
then I was.
Are you ready to record?
Yeah,
I
I'm
still
recording.
have
I love
You're
it,
burning.
but the real estate market didn't.
All right, so I think we're
I live just off of Logan Park.
recording, so
We'll just keep it close.
all right, so I think maybe we should just quickly do introductions, and then I'll turn it over to Michael for first thing. So maybe we just go around the room and introduce ourselves.
You're looking at me, so does that mean I start?
We all, if you want to, or we can go the other way. If you-
I'm Kathy Woody. I'm an Englewood resident, lived in my house for 44 years. And I'm just here because I'm interested in a city-wide composting program. And I think we're just sort of getting the first little teeny step.
I'm Christine Brinker. Nice to see you all.
Tim Dodd.
Mel England, Sustainability Coordinator for the city.
Dana Lieber.
Joe Anderson.
Michael Chisholm.
Logan Dunning. Steven Strawbridge.
And then who do we have on the call?
Hi, Rachel's on. Rachel Pelia, with the mission. Jessica Hall's on. I'm on.
Cara Frangipani's on.
Marissa Panning is here as well.
I'm Toni Arnoldy, the City of Englewood Events Supervisor.
Anyone that we're missing on the call? All right, so the first order of business is electing a chair and vice chair. So you're currently the vice chair, right?
I guess so.
To the end, yeah. So do you want to chair this part of the meeting and
Right.
call for nominations?
Can we call the meeting to order? First item, approval of minutes. I saw there was something about minutes being approved in April, so I'm in favor of approving the minutes. Does anybody know which minutes we're approving or what the meat of those minutes contain?
They were from January, so it was before a few of us had started.
Okay. So are we in favor of approving them?
I am.
Second?
I don't know if we can if we
You
weren't
two being the
there.
only ones there.
You probably abstain if you weren't. If you weren't there, probably abstain.
Okay.
This is
There's a few
Rachel. I
folks on
think
the
I
call
was
that were-
there. And if I was, I second.
Rachel was
Are we good? Okay. Help me along here, folks. All right, so we have business to conduct this
You gonna
evening.
vote on those?
We have to vote on the minutes, okay?
Yeah.
All those in favor of approving the minutes?
Aye.
Hi.
Aye.
Sounds like enough.
And then,
Minutes
is
are approved?
there anyone voting no or abstaining?
We're
Abstaining.
abstaining.
Abstained, okay. Duly noted, Deanna abstained, okay. Can we move on now?
Yep.
All right. I'm not sure what that means, January 11th draft minutes.
Those are the minutes you just approved.
Those, we just approved those, okay, thank you. All right, and then the February 8th meeting, those are gonna be held until April. And I don't understand why, but everybody else does?
Just in a way, and we've had some staff turnover, so
Oh,
it's,
okay.
it's a staffing issue, it's not a, yeah.
Fine. Okay. Upcoming tasks and events. Election of chair and vice chair. So if staff has any recommendations on the best procedure to follow, so I'd say we're open for discussion.
Yeah, so I think the best recommendation probably is, so just making sure that we know who the voting members are. So we have 3 voting members online and 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 in person, or 8 total. So 5 in person, 3 online, so 8 people can vote. So I would suggest that Michael, as the end of your term as vice chair, if you call for nominations for chair,
Okay.
people can nominate someone else. Each nomination has to be seconded. Once there are nominees, then we'll call for a vote.
Okay.
And then after we elect a chair, we'll elect a vice chair after that using the same process. And if it's okay with everyone, I would recommend, just because there are a few things coming up on the agenda after the chair is chosen, if we can take a really quick recess after we elect a chair and vice chair so that Mel and I can meet with those 2 people to just make sure they're up to speed very quickly on the agenda, if that's okay.
And so we should start with the vice chair or the chair?
I would start with the chair.
Okay.
Good, is that,
Could I have any nominations for the position of chairperson?
I'd like to nominate Logan if I may. I've been very impressed that he's very organized and proactive and committed, good follow through, and I think would be great at doing chair for the committee. I'll second that.
That second. Okay.
I was going to nominate Christine Brinker.
Thanks.
I
I'd
didn't hear
rather,
one meeting, but I was very impressed.
oh, thank you. I'd rather have Logan.
you're officially declining the
Christine.
nomination?
Yeah.
Declining the nomination?
Declining in
All right.
vice chair.
Vice chair, all right, vice chair.
Do we have any other nominations? We have 1 nomination. Shall we call it to a vote?
I think so.
No.
Rachel?
I think Rachel's trying to say something.
I was
Oh.
just gonna say, Mike, because you were interim too, right? So
I'm willing to serve as chair. I don't necessarily want to compete for the position.
no, between you and Logan, I think that's you guys. Yeah, both are good for either.
Okay. Okay.
Clarify.
So is that a nomination?
No, but it's coming up.
So are we comfortable with 1 nomination for chairperson? Shall we call it to a vote?
Happy to accept the nomination.
Awesome. He's willing to accept. That's a good
start.
Forgot about you.
Do you have a speech?
So if everybody's
not
comfortable,
have a
I'd
speech.
say let's bring it to a vote. All those in favor of Logan being chairperson?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? I would say unanimously, you are now the chairperson. Congratulations.
Thank you. I don't know what I did to deserve that, but I'm excited. I think we have a real opportunity here with the new direction, new vision, sustainability coordinator, new staff. Still got Joe here. Some of the old guard. But no, we've really got some impressive new members and existing. So I would be happy to steer the commission for the next year. That said, I've been on for just over a year now, still fairly new, learning the ropes. I would like some experience by my side, and I don't know if it's proper right now to jump into the vice chair vote.
So now you're the chair, so.
He's in charge.
Yeah.
Love the power.
Control yourself.
Yeah, control myself. I did have a conversation with Mike last week, just talking about the direction and vision. Being new, I would nominate Mike.
I second that.
To be vice chair of the commission for the upcoming year. I hear a second. So should we put this? Are there any other nominations?
I'll nominate Christine Brinker. Oh, thank you, but I'll decline and go for Mike, if you're willing.
You willing?
I'm willing.
Let's put it to a vote. We have a second and a nomination for Mike for vice chair for the upcoming year. All those in favor?
Aye.
Hi.
Any opposed? We're set.
Okay, thank you.
Would you like a quick break for us to go over the agenda, or do you feel comfortable moving forward?
I said we jump right in.
Yeah.
We got Toni up next.
Yeah. All right, as long as
Is
you're.
that okay?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, as long as you're comfortable.
Yeah, let's dive in.
Yeah, all right.
Hey, we're here for efficiency, so I'm all about it.
Toni, do you need to share screen at all, or?
No, I'm sorry. I didn't prepare anything. I
Oh,
just
no,
want
you're good.
I wish I had an introduction for Toni. Toni is the City of Englewood's events supervisor. Toni, thanks for joining us this evening. Really excited to see you on and grateful to have you here, and I'm excited to hear what you've got for us. So I'll hand the mic to you.
Awesome. Thank you. Well, as I mentioned, I'm Toni Arnoldy. I'm the City of Englewood events supervisor. I've been with the city since 2005, but just in this role since January of 2021. So I am super excited for this year. Less of COVID hangover kind of thing. So we have a ton of events planned for 2022. And I would invite, you can check out all of those at. Oops, I'm sorry. However, according to a WHO report released on March. Sorry, Alexa started talking to me. I'm sorry, but you can check out all of those on our website, and I'm going to put that in the chat. It's englewood.gov/events. And basically, I just wanted to come today because I want to invite all of you to be a part of all or any of the events. I know Keep Englewood Beautiful has been around for a long time, and I know that you do amazing things. So I would love to have you at any and all of the events that you would be interested in. I met with Melissa earlier today and talked a little bit about some of the larger events. So we have one coming up in May, which is Celebrate Englewood. And I would love for you all to have a presence there to talk about what you do and how people can be part of your group. And then, of course, we have the block party and a lot of other awesome events. We have markets throughout the summer, and then, of course, the 4th of July festival. So I just wanted to introduce myself and invite you all to play as big a role as you are comfortable with, and see if you had any questions that I can answer for you.
I have one. Toni, thanks for your efforts. I just like to make a request, and that is the more informed we are and the more succinct you are in the kinds of support or help you need, the better for all of us. I think in the past there have been some random communications that have not always coalesced into a focused support. So I don't know what the best way to do that is, but if we find out at the 11th hour about something, it's a lot harder to get on board than if we have a little lead time, we can talk amongst ourselves, and we want to support you, but we just need to get our facts straight, I guess.
No, awesome. I appreciate that. And I love that. What I would like to invite you all to do is, I can get you a more condensed list of events. I know that Mel has the package, and it's, of course, all on the website, but I could get you more of a condensed list with a little bit of information, kind of a description of what each event is. And then you all can kind of sit down and see what you think would fit best of what your initiatives are. also, because obviously you know more than I do about what your focus is on whatnot. And then basically, I just need to know that you are interested in having a presence, and then I will make sure that there is a spot for you at whichever event you choose.
Thank you.
Any further questions for Toni? Toni, his first one is the spring event market. That's in April, correct?
Yes,
Can you
April 9th.
Tell us a little bit about what we could expect at that event. I've been to the block party. I've read about Celebrate. I don't think I've attended the spring event market.
Yeah, no, of course. So the spring event market is brand new. We have always done an event in the spring around the egg hunt holiday. And a lot of times it has just been at the park, and it is about 10 minutes long and then it's over. Since I work very closely with Lindsay Peterson, who has done traditionally done that event, we talked about, because we spend not much time setting up for it, and then the tear down, to maybe combine the two events so we can have the festivities in the morning, and then people can stay if they like and enjoy the market. The markets are brand new from last year. So it's kind of a new event. So what you can expect is, if you want to be part of the egg hunt, it's going to be in the morning. And then during that time, and then for a few hours after that event has concluded, is going to be a market where it's going to hopefully be local vendors that may be selling baked goods. They might be talking about planting. They might be selling seeds or trees, pot holders, you name it. And then there might be some business vendors there also that are talking about different things. I know Craig Hospital is a large sponsor of ours. And I'm hoping that many of the boards and commissions and special groups in Englewood will be also at the events. And then, of course, it's always a good opportunity if you guys are looking for any volunteers. So that is the spring event. And then in May is Celebrate Englewood. And this will be the second year for Celebrate Englewood. It takes place over at the Englewood Police Department on Elaty Street, and we use the Denny Miller Field parking lot. And that is a touch a truck type of activity. It's super fun. It's exactly what it says, Celebrate Englewood. We invite all of the different departments, boards, commissions, special groups, service clubs, anyone that does anything in Englewood to be a part of that event. And then we have the streets department bring some of their snow blowers and their big ladder trucks that they change the streetlights with. Police have all of their vehicles out there, and it's just a ton of fun. We have a DJ, and all of the different departments can set up a booth, and then people just come and walk around and talk to people. It's kind of our show and tell of what's behind the walls of City Center and Police Department and Service Center and all the different entities that Englewood has to offer. And we also had Tiny Studios do a art project last year with a steamroller. So that was really fun. And it's just super awesome time. And we invite anyone that does anything in Englewood to come and be a part of it that day. And it also is tentatively scheduled for 10 to 2 p.m. on that Saturday of May 7th, I believe.
With the spring event being next month, is that something we should discuss? Any sort of involvement at tonight's meeting? Or is that some communication that we can do with Toni before next month's meeting?
Certainly do the communication in between, but Toni, what do you think? Do you think it would be helpful to, how can the commission express their interest in being involved in that?
I I think that it would be good for you guys. You don't necessarily need to do it right now, but you definitely for you guys to have maybe get a consensus on if you're like, it's too soon, we want to wait, or yeah, we would be interested. I'll definitely find a spot for you if that's something that you want to do, and so you can definitely talk to me offline. But because if you do only meet once a month, and it is coming up in April, it might be something worth just seeing if your group has an interest in it or if it's just too soon. I understand completely either way.
That's helpful. What if we, and for sake of time and your time tonight, Toni, what if we let you go and connect it after this evening? I'm happy to be the facilitator there, and we can, if we'd like to discuss tonight, I can get you those thoughts and our involvement by the end of the week.
Yeah, no, that's perfect. Whatever works for you guys. I mean, as long as I have a little bit of notice. The biggest question that I would have is, do you have your own tent, table, and chairs, or is that something that you're going to need the city to provide? Just to make sure I have enough there if you need it.
Right.
So that is about it. So I welcome you to anyone to reach out to me, text, call, email, any of it. So I'm super excited to work with you all. And I know that you guys do amazing things, and I can't wait to be more of a part of them.
Thanks, Toni. We appreciate your presentation tonight. And Tim, can I get all of the aforementioned info from you for Toni?
Yeah,
okay,
absolutely.
Great. Toni, thank you.
Thanks,
Of course.
Toni.
Thank you guys. And I'm going to put my email and my cell phone in the chat. Just so you have it.
Great.
Oh,
Grab it offline. Is that something we can maybe discuss toward the end of the agenda where we have, do we have a line item to discuss April topics? Or is that something we should discuss
I
now?
believe you have a member's choice later. So
Okay.
it can certainly come up during member's choice if you'd like to do that way.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Toni.
Bye.
Good. Back on track here. Next item. Or any discussion from our presentation from Toni? It was a lovely overview of what we can expect, and I'm excited to kind of talk about some of our involvement. Definitely.
My observation is, my gut level is, we can get roped into doing things. We can get spread so thin. And what I'm hoping to do this year is focus on sustainability objectives. If Toni's events coincided with what our priorities were, I would say that's terrific. But I think this group needs to get to know each other better, and we need to develop a consensus on what we want in sustainability in Englewood. Then I think we can use that filter to look at things like, and where there's an overlap, absolutely, we should cooperate. But there's instances where I don't see Celebrate Englewood as a sustainability project, just as an example. But I'm done. I just wanted to throw that out as a concern that we can get pulled in many directions.
I think it'll be easy for us to do that with all that's on our plate and on the horizon for the next several months. So it's a fair thought. So for April, I guess we can talk about member's choice toward the end. But okay.
Okay, thank you.
Any other thoughts? Grant?
Should I save it for when we discuss this?
I think we could discuss involvement with
Okay.
regards to Toni's events, and then we can discuss specifics with the April meeting during the member's choice. So please, Dana, if you have any thoughts.
I think I totally agree we can get overextended. But any event, I think, is an opportunity for us to have a table to get the word out about our priorities. And, so I think even if it doesn't seem, even if the event's not about sustainability, our table can be.
I just in terms of, familiar with a lot of these events. I don't see a lot of value in, she's got a lot of these Englewood market events throughout the year, which I think are great. And I plan on going to some of them at least. But I don't see a lot of value in, if you're gonna limit the number of events, is going to the market events. But the two, I think what I would see as the two top events to have a presence at would be Celebrate Englewood and Block Party, because those are ones where it's a citywide event, and specifically Celebrate Englewood, part of the purpose is to introduce people to the boards and commissions and city departments and that kind of stuff. So having the presence there, it doesn't particularly meet any sustainability goals, but it does give you a presence in the community that I think is meaningful, as would being at the Block Party. But I think you're exactly right, Michael, that you could, Tony's got a lot of events this year. You could probably go to all of them and get a booth if you wanted. I don't think that's a good use of everyone's time here, because you would keep yourself busy with events all year long.
Can I say something or no?
Absolutely.
I can? Yeah. So, I kind of keep up on what's going on in Englewood pretty well. Like I said, I've been here 44 years. I didn't know anything about the Sustainability Commission, nothing. I knew about Keep Englewood Beautiful, and I thought they planted all those nice flowers. That's all I knew about it. So, just as a regular citizen, I think you need to get your name out there. And I agree with Joe. The Block Party for sure, and the Celebrate Englewood, which I'm not. Did she say that's new this year?
It was started last year, and it was pretty heavily attended. There were a lot of people there, and it's the purpose of it is to have booths of city commissions and departments. That's one of the is to introduce people to what Englewood has going on.
Yeah.
And so even more so than the Block Party, perhaps that's where you really get some good advertising done for absolutely what the commission's up to.
Yeah, I just think you need to be out there so the citizens know that you exist.
Absolutely, and we are a fairly new commission within the last 4 or 5 months. We've transitioned to the Sustainability Commission.
Right.
So I agree. Presence is key, and I think to Mike's point, over the course of the next few weeks, months, year, we should really rein in our priorities, because within the city's plan, it's an exhaustive list. So I think really putting our heads together and identifying some actionable items here in the near future, really drill down into and get working on is a good starting point. But we can get more into that. Any other thoughts on Tony's events? Online? Great. Well, it's okay with the group. I'll move to the next action item. And we can, if we need, we can revisit this during the member's choice toward the end. Next order of business is to take a look at the recommended changes to the city's sustainability plan. They should be in your packet. If you need a link, I'm sure one of us is happy to send those out. I did a quick review. Mel, do I hand this over to you to walk through? Or
if it's okay, Logan, I'd like to just do a really quick introduction to the process and then turn it over to Mel to kind of walk through it.
Please.
So basically in June of before June of 2020, council, I think, held a few different, or at least one major kind of event, a retreat, to basically start the development of a strategic plan. So in the summer of 2020, that strategic plan was created. It had 7 what we're referring to as outcome areas or themes. Sustainability is one of them, but of course there's 6 others. So everything from governance to safety is also included in it. For the past 2 years or so, we track progress on the plan. Most of the items that were in the plan currently, or past I should say, were projects. They were one-time projects. We didn't really have a lot of performance metrics, and there were many, many goals. So this year, in the winter, I should say in the fall, we started kind of a rethink or reimagining of the entire strategic plan. I should back up a bit and say the sustainability section was a bit light, and so when we started developing the platform for a sustainability program, We met with council multiple times in the fall of 2020 and winter of 2021. And from those discussions developed a sustainability plan, which really is what I call a plug-in plan, meaning that it's a standalone sustainability plan, but it's also the sustainability section of the strategic plan. So when we started the rewrite, one of the things that we were looking to do was create a little bit of different of a structure that had more performance metrics to measure how well the efficiency and effectiveness of things that we were currently doing, as well as some outcome metrics. And I'll just pause there and say, the outcome metrics that are in the plan right now for sustainability really are in draft form. That's one of the visions I think we had for this commission and for Mel's job, is that you would work together to really develop some really good, I don't know if I'd say cutting edge, but in line at least with other cities in the area and what they're measuring. But for right now, they're pretty, I guess I would say standard or very beginning metrics. But we did really do, we tried to look at programs that were already running. We got input from the community. We also got input from the case group. And so basically we presented that updated whole strategic plan to council a few weeks ago. And one of the things that came out of that meeting was asking Mel to do a review of the sustainability section, including the recommendations we received from CASE, and then to present it to this group. And so right now, it is on the docket for council to vote on the full strategic plan, I believe on March 21st. So the purpose of the meeting tonight is to basically go through the recommendations that we received from CASE and from the public, to then look at Mel's recommendations on those, and then for you to decide if you would like to make those recommendations to council or not. So as a reminder, this is a advisory committee, a commission. And so one of the ways that you advise is on the plan, the sustainability plan, and on sustainability projects. And so Mel can certainly go through line by line. We can get your feedback. I think Logan at the end of vote would be very helpful, so that we can go to council and say the Sustainability Commission made these recommendations or they didn't make these recommendations. And certainly as we discuss, if there are areas or loggerheads as we move forward, we may need kind of votes in between, on specific topics. But that's basically where we're at right now. So council's reviewed the plan multiple times. We've gotten feedback on the other areas. This seemed to kind of be the last piece before the plan is approved. And I don't know, Joe, if there's anything else you'd like to add to that, or?
No, that's a good summary.
Can I ask, is there room to add more amendments tonight?
You could certainly, so tonight's goal is to make a recommendation to council about the sustainability section of the plan. You could potentially make recommendations that they add things. I don't know, Joe, if you want to comment on that.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the whole purpose of the existence, or one of the major purposes of the existence of this commission, is to help us with the sustainability plan. So anything that this commission recommends to council, it's going to be taken very, very seriously. And if there's stuff that you want to add to it or take out of it, that's what we want to hear on city council. And yeah, I think this is for, this is just a place where you can prioritize. Obviously, you can stick 100 or 1,000 things into the sustainability plan. It's not particularly going to get accomplished in a timely manner. So I think thinking through what are the highest priority things for the citizens of Englewood, for the good of our city, or maybe what are some big wins, big easy early wins, those kind of things are going to be the most helpful, I think, for actually moving the ball forward.
So I don't know, Mel, if you wouldn't mind pulling it up, and so happy to do it, Logan, however you'd like. We can go line by line, or this is, I think the commission should have gotten these last Thursday, is that correct? Mm-hmm. So however you want to proceed.
Mel, I'll give you some autonomy. We can go line to line, and under your proposals, we can add comment as needed. And if you'll take notes on if we do.
Yeah, I'll put anything, so if you all approve or disapprove, I'll just add the note right here so you can see me add it in.
Right. And I think at the end, if we can have some discussion, and then we can sort of vote on the recommendations as a block. That would be.
And there are only, I think, 2 or 3 that I have further explanation, just because there's maybe a little jargon, but overall, I think
they can be pretty
Seems
straightforward.
pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
Sure, I'll let you dive in and we'll go line to line and we can take notes as needed.
Okay, let me see if you all can see both of these if I have this up. Is that easily readable to people?
Yeah, I can see it.
Okay, perfect. Let me move this over. Okay, so this first one was to change this outcome, kind of this area right here. So change it currently from the city of Englewood embraces sustainable visioning, planning, and decision-making that focuses on the economy, equity, ecology, and education of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their needs. And the outcome statement, to change it to a city that stewards its resources for the benefit of current and future generations.
And that was a change that was discussed by council during the retreat.
Yeah, we tried to simplify it.
Yeah. I had to take like 3 breaths just to do that properly.
Last place I worked, the definition of sustainability was literally like 3 paragraphs. They would not carve it down, but yes. But I appreciate that our council wants it to be a definition that people
Oh, yeah,
understand.
sorry.
I like it, sounds good.
I appreciate the focus on current and future generations.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Great.
I like it. I would like somewhere for it to acknowledge preparedness for climate change as a goal. Anticipating climate change and preparing for that.
Would that be overall an approval of the new term or?
Well, it's, would people like to see that as well?
Oh,
So
yeah.
if they would, then I think Mel, maybe the easiest for the last column would be where we land. So if we land that we accept what it was, we can just say accept it as written. Or if we land and we change it during this meeting, then we would just write the change in the column. So I don't know if.
I agree on the importance for sure. And I liked what Mal said in the next line that really discussed it in the introduction.
I don't know why my thing's not showing now.
If you, can you hit escape for a minute?
So if it's not in the top phrase, it could perhaps be included elsewhere.
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
Yeah, please.
Goals.
Sorry about that.
Mel, how long for the introduction though, why this plan is important?
I was picturing something really brief.
Couple sentences?
Couple sentences
Paragraph?
just on, yeah, because climate change isn't listed once in the sustainability plan, and I think that's pretty important. I totally agree with you, Dana. So, yeah.
Okay. Dana, is that okay if it's
Yeah.
addressed in the second?
Totally.
Okay. Are we in agreement to keep the outcome statement as is? Yep.
Mhm. If it has the next Mel's introduction.
Okay, perfect. So these next areas, I believe these are already, the food system's already confirmed.
Yeah, there was a decision made by council, but we
Okay.
just kept it here for the purposes of tracking.
Oh, okay. So food systems is gonna get changed to community well-being. It'll still be there, just getting changed to a different section in
Okay.
the strategic plan. So then for air quality, Case recommended to change air quality to climate change and air quality. I can totally understand that because, again, we didn't have climate change in there. I just said to not include because I think climate change encompasses so much more than just air quality, and to maybe address it in different sections.
Well, where would, if we're taking it out of there, where would we address, let's say like urban heat island? or other issues?
So I have that in, currently, you'll see it down in community resilience. I do a climate vulnerability index, which deals with heat indexes too.
I think Case's point was that climate needs to be in the plan, and that was its best suggestion for where to put it in the plan. But when I went through your suggestions, you seem to have a lot of, a broader perspective for where it could go. So I think that it would be fine to remove it from air quality, since it's peppered throughout other places. Since you're right, it is broader than just air quality.
Is this an approval?
Yeah.
Okay, great. And the next one was a new one I proposed, was to add the goal for air quality of improving public health outcomes through better air quality.
That's good. How do we measure that? So we could track that.
So one thing right now, I think there could be a slew of ways. One, there's an asthma comp program that currently serves Englewood schools, and they help with doing like asthma mitigation, and they've apparently helped schools reduce 80% of their emergency asthma risk stuff. So kind of similar programs to that, but I just don't have the pinpoint right now what exactly that metric would be.
That's great.
The plan is to implement some sort of metrics now, correct?
Yeah, and to like look into what ways we could improve public health dealing with air quality.
I like that, because it's just acknowledging why the air quality matters.
Yeah. And online, please raise your hand if you have comments. I'm trying to keep an eye on that too.
So is that approved, disapproved?
Yep. Approved.
Perfect. Okay, this one also is an ad by me. So I set a project to add air quality health information on the englewood.gov website in both English and Spanish. And then I also have a project to increase education and outreach around how to stay safe during bad air quality days.
What does the city currently do?
We, at least from what I know, we're part of RAC, the Regional Air Quality Council, but in terms of kind of like outreach for bad air quality days, I don't believe we have any programs.
I'm not aware. We might, but I'm not aware.
Same.
This is Rachel, are we engaged with the CDPHE at all on kind of those metrics? Because the state collects a lot of data, so if anything can be extrapolated, so as not to like reinvent the wheel.
I just had a meeting with someone from, I believe it was Love My Air, so we're starting to do kind of more stuff with them. But.
And we also, someone from Tri-County Health Department reached out to us, and they're doing a program that I believe is in conjunction with CDPHE to measure air quality in different parts of municipalities, and so it's also something we're looking at as well.
You have a timeline on that?
It seemed like it could potentially be relatively soon, but I don't think we had a timeline.
I don't know an exact timeline.
Love the idea. Okay.
Approved, disapproved?
Approved.
Okay, perfect. And then this one this one is mine as well. I said investigate education and outreach around bad indoor air quality identification prevention.
Definitely.
Yep. Big part on it.
So then Case had a recommendation to add, measure, track, and publicize the city's climate emission inventory. I just said to amend it, this is so minuscule, I just said change climate to greenhouse gas emission inventory.
I'm sorry, this is Rachel again. Do we have a plan to do that? Sorry, I come from like an EHS emissions data collection background, so that's a really big task.
So we are going to start doing carbon emission tracking, hopefully at the end of this month, beginning of next month. So that would cover carbon, but as far as methane, and all that. I'm not 100% sure.
Are you guys trying to do like scope 1, scope 2?
I'm pretty sure it would be scope 1, but I'm not sure. We're going to be utilizing ClearPath, and I'm not sure kind of the scopes that they allow you to do through that.
Is that through Igley? Can you remind me? Okay.
Can I just quickly mention what ICLEI is?
Oh yeah, sorry. ICLEI is a program basically for local governments for sustainability, and they have this program called ClearPath. It's really awesome. It does carbon emission tracking, but they also do future tracking. So you can put in things such as like if you upgrade your building codes to have more efficiency, they can kind of put that in there and see your carbon emissions in the future going forward. Very intuitive tool.
Who's putting this report together?
So it's going to be through ClearPath, but I'm going to be the one kind of doing all the data with it.
Would all of this be on the city's website?
Yep, so it's going to be, once all the data is done, we're going to make it public facing.
I think this is a no-brainer.
Okay.
Yeah. You can't manage what you don't measure.
I like that.
Ooh, can't spell approve.
Before we move on to the next, can I add some recommendations for air quality? Planting native plants, native grasses and wildflowers has a positive impact on 8 out of 10 of the sustainability goals. And it's listed, I think, once. For air quality, people often think about trees helping the air quality. Prairie meadows actually sequester much more carbon without the water footprint. So 1 acre can store 1 ton of carbon a year. So if we want to improve our air quality, and that's an important tool, is to identify where we have non-functional turf that can be replaced with prairie meadows. And I won't go all plant wonky with tons of details, but just for one measure, Kentucky bluegrass, that's most what our turfs are. And it has its purpose, but the roots are about 6 inches deep. Our native prairie plants, the roots are 4 feet to 15 feet deep. And that's why they're adapted to survive without water and have many benefits that I'll touch on for other areas. But those roots improve the soil and the soil's ability to sequester carbon. So.
And are you proposing that we add a new way to track or?
A new action to improve our air quality, that we identify where we have turf that is not serving a community purpose. It's great for ball fields. There's no better grass, but where we have acres and acres of Kentucky bluegrass that we water and mow, and the mowing has a big carbon footprint, and it's a relatively, in the scheme of things, very low-cost transition and saves resources and helps improve our air quality.
Can I add to that?
Yeah.
I agree with you. I think where we have Kentucky bluegrass should be a consideration. And I also think we should be aware of where we have asphalt. And we have orphan lots. We have tracts of asphalt that are doing nothing except collecting heat. So the notion of putting any living plant, prairie, would be excellent. I think the city could have a dramatic impact in air quality and a whole bunch of good things in terms of the environment. So I just want to add asphalt lots.
I agree. Yeah, to asphalt lots, places that flood, it helps mitigate flooding. We can talk about that underwater, but to inventory where there are opportunities to.
Do we have any, what sort of GIS tools do we have at our expense with the city? Is that something that we could request, a sort of a citywide survey of not only Kentucky bluegrass, but perhaps where we could do asphalt next to it? Would that be of interest? How expensive would that be? What sort of GIS tools do we have?
Yeah, so we have a GIS program that we're actually, we have just finished actually working with a consultant on a strategic plan, and so there will be some proposals coming forward on how to make that division more robust in terms of not just looking at the spatial analytics part, the GIS part, but also just data analytics in general, which is where we want to go as a city. In the meantime, though, things certainly like looking at, doing top maps to basically identify where we have parking lots. I can't speak for them. I don't think that would be that difficult to do that. I know that they are looking at things like being able to, and you may know more than I do about this, but tree canopy coverage, I think, is something we've talked to them about. That's a possibility. So I think to answer your question, we have a GIS team that we could certainly ask them this question and see what they're capable of providing back to us. But they should be able to do most of what you asked, I would think.
Dan, would that be a good starting point, Mike? Getting some.
Yeah, I'd just like a baseline.
A request into this GIS team to see.
What does GIS stand for?
Oh, Geographic Informational System?
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think, Parks Department could identify their areas. I think there are communities that have areas they would like to replace asphalt with pollinator habitat. So
I have a question on it. I definitely like the idea. And it sounds like we're hatching a good project in there, given how you said that it meets like 6 out of the 8 goals?
8 out of 10.
8 out of the 10 goals. And we probably wouldn't have the same exact project under 8. If we did have to put it in one of these categories, recognizing that it hits multiple bullets, which place would it be best to go?
I think natural environment. That's where it would be a project, I think, that fits best, but I think there's the city property to address it, and under community resilience, we could talk about residential turf replacement programs. And, and it also is under water protection, because the prairies can be virtually unwatered, and I won't go into all the steps, but it takes a tremendous amount of supplemental water to maintain Kentucky bluegrass.
In terms of,
Sounds like we need some more specific projects under natural environment and recognize that it hits multiple things.
I think it's inventorying where there are opportunities for this, and probably figuring out a criteria to evaluate the order and how much can be funded.
Yeah. That's a great idea.
And I think, and one more thing about it, in terms of anticipating climate change, it's a really great tool for mitigating flooding. And at Depot Park, on the slope where there's a swale, we have planted a prairie meadow by seed. And previously, when that was Kentucky bluegrass, there's this slope that starts up through the alley with all of the rainwater runoff from all these houses. So in a storm, that's a lot of water gushing down there. When these plants mature, that water won't even get to Dartmouth. It's like pouring water over a colander with the deep roots. It's just that it gets sucked up. So in areas in the city where, there are these steep slopes that are at risk in flash floods, those are also a great place to plant prairie meadow. And again, it's a very low-cost tool that has a big impact in a lot of areas.
I think the first step would be adding a line item here under natural environment. Maybe explore the GIS survey, if that's something that you'd like to do. And then I appreciate that action item. Let's identify some flood areas where we can actually implement some of this and do some planting and kind of get some volunteers out there and get our hands dirty a little bit. Melissa, is that something we can address now, or should we wait till we get down to the natural environment section?
I would say maybe let's do that when we hit the natural environment, and I can write that in.
Great.
Are we good to move on? Okay, perfect. So this one was proposed by Case. Sorry, it's a little funky. So they're proposing to add the project to investigate EV ready, PV ready, and electric ready wiring amendments as part of the 2021 International Energy Conservation Code. They're recommending to consider placing energy efficiency in the building code to improve energy efficiency in the building code. And then they also propose to continue pursue green building code to its own project.
I only have a small comment. I like it, obviously. I think PV ready, we change to say solar ready because then it would match what the code says. There's a solar ready appendix already. I know they're synonyms, but
Statute alignment is important.
solar ready instead of PV ready.
Christine, would the green building code be still in the sustainability section or
So they're recommending that it would still be in there, but right now it shares a line with energy efficiency, and they're saying just make it its own thing.
Approve?
Approve? Okay, then for built environment, Case also said to add the following metric to measure carbon emissions. I just amended this a little bit just to be more specific. I just said measure, track, and reduce carbon emissions for city-owned residential and commercial.
I like the amendment.
Amended? Okay. Great. And then Case also said remove number of certified buildings. I said do not include just because there's a free metric, the Energy Star certification, that we can put our city-owned buildings through. And then at least we have a metric to see kind of how we're doing. I totally agree of like not doing LEED certification, especially right now, because that's really pricey. But if this is a free metric, I think why not use it?
All about being a good steward of our natural resources and the city's money.
Yeah,
So
saving some cash.
This is a good place to start.
I agree totally. Yeah. Okay. This metric was a mess and that focuses it.
So then for a built environment, I propose to remove the percent of potholes filled within 3 days and to move it to just infrastructure safety to the strategic plan. I think it's important, but I just don't think it deals with sustainability.
Agreed.
Okay.
Okay, perfect. Okay, on to community resilience. So wait. Oh, sorry. Please stop me if I'm going too fast.
It's fine. So if we're gonna have green building code in its own section, I'd like it to specify goals for reducing non-functional turf in new buildings. Right now, turf is like the go-to default thing with landscaping. It should be native, plants should be the default, and we have turf where we use it. So I'd like that to be included, as well as reducing non-permeable pavement.
I'm sorry, reducing non-permeable pavement and turf, right?
And non-functional turf.
Know that I'm writing it, it's just going on the side.
And with new landscaping to prioritize native, low water, hardy grasses and wildflowers.
Commercial and residential?
Well, the building code deals with both, right? For just new development. So yeah, for both.
Is that, because the commission as a whole has to vote on the amended ones, right?
They'll vote on the whole block on our
On the whole
recommendation.
block, okay.
I think if we come to a quick consensus while we're line iteming, we can, in the end, in lieu of our time, vote as a block. Do we approve what we've already gone through?
Okay, perfect.
I think a good place for that is in the development code. And I remember hearing discussions that that's on their radar in the UDC steering committee. So I guess the project would be to make sure that happens or coordinate the Sustainability Commission with the UDC redevelopment code. And given that that's happening like now-ish, now in the next few months, that would be one of those
Maybe-
more pressing things.
Maybe at the next meeting, we could have a conversation with them.
Okay.
Good.
Anything else? Yeah, for built environment, okay, a background question. Is the idea that we'll have outcomes, goals, projects, and metrics?
Yeah, eventually. So the others, right now, we're focused really just on kind of cleaning up some challenges and being more straightforward and more focused on sustainability. But the other, we apologize, I didn't get to you until yesterday, but we sent you the draft entire plan. So if you look at some of the other sections, that basically shows the structure we want to get to, where we have outcome metrics. Yeah, exactly what you just said. Outcome
Okay.
metric goals, and then under each goal, projects and metrics that are more designed, like output metrics that are more designed to
Okay,
measure efficiency.
Okay, so in that case, for the built environment section, it includes the E3 program? Or actually, I think you said move that to energy.
I think the E3 one is currently in energy.
Okay.
So that one's coming up because
Okay,
Case
Then
recommended.
I'll hold my comment.
Oh, okay, no, you're
Have a
good.
metric for that. Okay.
Okay, so where did we leave off? Okay, right here. So for community resilience, I propose to add the outcome of percentage of communities with increased resilience to climate change risks. And this is heat, flood, air pollution kind of falls into that too. It's kind of all encompassing.
I agree with the goal, but how are you measuring that, or what are the actions to increase?
So
that
I feel like there
resilience?
could be a lot, and so I just added the outcome right now, and then for the updates, we can kind of figure out like what are the percentages that we're, or what are the tactics that we're using to measure this, but also a little bit lower too. I have, sorry to jump ahead. For this project, I have investigate creating a climate vulnerability index, this GIS mapping tool, so we could even use kind of like how many of our communities kind of increase their adaptation to climate change risk, and kind of use that going forward too.
That's good.
Approved?
Yep.
Okay. So then this goal, it's pretty much the same thing as just in the goal form, increase climate change mitigation and adaptation strategies to projects, especially in areas with highest climate change vulnerability risk. Good.
I totally agree with that. I would like it to be more specific, but
I think I left it a little more bit on the broad side because it's the goal, and then the project underneath it would be the more specific
Okay.
one. So I just didn't want to make it too specific and then have projects not fit under it. And then this is the GIS tool I just talked about.
Okay.
Like it.
yeah, I like that.
Great. And then I also had an outcome of project of percentage of city employees that are engaged in sustainability and resilience events and activities, and to do a metric of that of 10% employee engagement in these events and activities.
Good.
I like it. Is there any sort of, how are you going to do that? Is it just
Yeah, so it could
carrot or
be
a
kind
stick
of like
approach,
city
or-
employees that kind of volunteer for events. It can be ones that come to webinars that deal with sustainability. It can really be kind of all encompassing.
Don't you have to be careful though? I mean, if there's an implied ranking and rating in there, employee X simply doesn't want to do that.
Well, it'll be all voluntary, so it'll just say like, if we can get at least, and 10%, I think that's a pretty feasible percentage. So if we can just get 10% of city employees.
I'm not against it, I'm
Oh,
just
no,
saying
no, no.
what's fair to those employees who just
Right, and I think
don't
because it would be voluntary for them to do it.
I love the idea. I'd love to see more than 10, but that's a good starting point.
Gotta start somewhere though.
You might have that the first time.
And then here, Kay suggested to add the project for in-community resilience of assisting homeowners with the removal of lead pipes and lead paint, and to revise demolition permits, including required containment plans for lead and asbestos-contained properties. I just said amend. I think these are wonderful, but I feel like they would work better in the built environment section. But I can totally understand why they wanted to put it here.
Can I, before, are you done? Or
Oh,
before
no,
we move to
stop me
energy?
anytime. Stop me anytime.
So, so a turf replacement program, which many cities in Colorado have, would help homeowners reduce their bills, basically, that, and create resilience that way. About 50 to 55% of residential water use goes to landscapes. So turf replacement incentive programs, everything's optional, but helping with education and some financial incentives would help people save a lot of money. And there's a state bill and that would help fund local turf replacement. So if that passes, Englewood should definitely tap into that. And it would be, it's usually the water providers who would do it.
Dana, what, do you know the bill number?
I can look it up.
Can look it up.
Great.
But it's got bipartisan support and it's been passed, it's passed the first committee. I'll email it.
So your proposal is helping with education and financing to help people save, to help people probably implement turf
To
replacement?
help people replace a non-native turf with a low water landscape. Some of the turf replacements have a 2-tier incentive and you get higher reimbursement if you're planting native plants. So that to me is the best model.
Is the Renewable and Clean Energy Project grants bill?
No.
Turf replacement program,
Turf-
It's like-
HB 221151.
Okay, I'm just curious. 1151?
Yeah.
Thank you.
And I think education's always a really key part of the incentives.
Great. Anything else before I move on to energy? Awesome. So the next one, Case recommended to move the electric vehicle program from energy to transportation. Yes, awesome. And then Case also recommended to move the E3 residential energy efficiency program to the built environment goal. I recommended not to include this change. I think it can be tricky because they definitely overlap, but I think this falls more under the energy program and policies around affordable and accessible energy. And I think it's a good fit, but I can totally see how they'd want it in the other.
The opposition. I think it makes sense either way.
Seems fine.
Yeah.
So keep the approve amended? Okay. Right, what you said. Okay, perfect. I just want to keep sure I did it right.
I had a related comment. It looked like in the
draft, I think it might have come from a city council member to change the energy title to energy efficiency.
Yeah, that was a misinterpretation, I guess I would say on my
Oh,
part,
okay.
so I took that
Okay,
out.
okay, good.
So you don't, yeah, Mel and I took it out here. Yeah.
Okay, and then for energy, I proposed adding an outcome of % reduction in energy use in city-owned commercial and residential buildings. Okay. And then I recommended to change, this might be hard without seeing the plan. I recommended to change in energy, that E3 program one to more broad, just reduce energy across the government, commercial and residential buildings. And then underneath the more broad one to then put the E3 program under more of a project instead of a goal.
Yeah.
No objection here. Okay, onward.
And then I also said, so this is one, I'm gonna pull up my slides. So one of the projects I proposed to add is to create an energy efficiency outreach and education plan or strategy around reaching low-income areas to alleviate the energy burden. So I got, oh, man, it's not snowing.
There he is.
Right on time.
Hey. So essentially the energy burden is just the percentage of a household spends on their income, on their utility bills. And Xcel Energy has a report in Colorado, as with many states, our low-income communities are spending a really high amount because they don't have the privileges of, you know, affording like ecobees and nests and energy efficiency upgrades. So I put just kind of creating a plan to really reach these communities.
That's great. Great. Could you go back up to the E3
Yeah,
project?
absolutely.
As opposed to the goal? Oh, okay, wait, I'm lost, give me 1 second. Continue to develop the E3 program. Are you taking out the specifics about $8,000 worth of homeowner match and 20%, or is that still in up there in a project somewhere?
I don't have anything around changing that.
That's one recommendation we might consider, because that would lock us into those specific dollar amounts, and it might be nice to have flexibility to change that. And then I think when the time comes, we might be able to look at making that particular grant program far more effective by linking with Energy Outreach Colorado that pulls in state funding, federal funding, utility funding, foundation funding, all to do that, and use that to maybe stretch our dollars a lot further. And also perhaps require that the homeowners that are getting the grants get the utility rebate as well, because it's kind of like free money that could stretch our program a lot further. But just for time's sake, we could just make the project a lot more general. Continue to develop and improve the E3 program or something like that as a project, rather than the specifics. Okay, and that's where I had my question about the metric. It seems like a good metric for that might be number of homes receiving services and efficiency savings from the grants, from the projects.
Great. Anyone want to add anything else? Okay.
Can I ask a more high-level question?
Yeah.
When it comes to applying for these grants, is that something that we would take on, or is that something that we would look to you, Mel, or the city, or?
So our community development division, specifically Nancy Fenton, she's the one that oversees the E3 program.
Yeah, so what's kind of unique too about our structure is that there certainly will be, so applying for a grant isn't something that a commission would do. However, you could recommend that we apply for one, or that the city, I should say, apply for one. What's kind of unique about Mel's position in this structure is that she will take on her own projects. But part of this program is to basically support initiatives that are going on in departments that have bigger staffs and a bigger structure and have the bandwidth to take these on. So we certainly can't take on our own initiatives, but part of her role will be supporting initiatives from departments.
That's helpful. Would Mel be the one lobbying to earmark certain funds for this commission for the projects that we would take on? Or would that be a recommendation to council through Councilman Anderson, or what would that look like?
So I think it depends on the scope of the grant and the grant requirements.
Sure.
Many of them do require some level of elected official sign off, and some do require formal acceptance. So it really depends on the scope.
Thanks. Sorry, Mel.
Oh my gosh, no, you're good. Okay, so moving on, I then propose to add a project to explore programs and grants to help businesses increase energy efficiency, since they are the biggest energy users in Englewood.
Has there been any consideration of green roofs to improve their energy efficiency?
For businesses?
Yeah.
I haven't really looked into any, but I can definitely make note of it.
I was on the Denver Green Roof Task Force when they evaluated that policy. And the conclusion from all the data is that it is great for air quality and stormwater runoff.
And pollinators.
And pollinators, not for energy, does like squat for
Really?
energy use, because there's so much, the new code requires so much insulation in the roof that heat isn't getting through. Dirt was a really good insulator in like pilgrim days. Like pioneer days, but the insulation is so much better. So if it did,
It doesn't go in
it
that
doesn't go
section.
there.
Okay, fair
Yeah.
enough.
That's helpful.
All right, so this one approved, disapprove.
I like it. I have some specific ideas for what we might do there. But if this is its own project, then I guess we could add those later, right? Ways that we might, programs and grants that we might use.
Okay, so then moving on.
I'll just pause, if I can just add it real quick.
Yeah.
I think these are important things to consider the city's involvement, not just to spend money, but landlords don't have incentive when they charge their tenants to pay for the energy. They don't have any incentive to improve the energy efficiencies. So having some metric to encourage the landlord, who's mostly concerned about cost, because it's hard for a landlord, especially if he has investors, to say, I'm not giving you a distribution, I'm improving air quality, or reducing energy, or whatever. So I do think this is important for commercial to evaluate. Is there a way to get the attention of the people who actually don't get the financial benefit? The landlord's paying for it, the tenant doesn't care. The tenant's paying for it, the landlord doesn't care.
That's a really good point. Is there some, trade-off thing that, I know, some cities that for development to incentivize planting native landscape, you get a water credit. There is some financial
So
incentive.
your target then would be property managers. You talk to the people so a landlord typically owns 2 or 3 buildings. A property manager might manage 50. So if you can articulate the benefits to the property managers, and I don't know what your avenue of marketing is, but those are the people who say, landlord, you want to save a few bucks? Here's how you can do it. And he's not going to be on Englewood's website looking for that, but his property manager might be. So the property manager also cares about the tenants who interact with them on a daily basis. But another one is, and I like this one personally, when the companies themselves have their initiatives, they'll pressure the landlord towards it. I'll sign a longer lease. I'll pay more in rent if you can provide me more energy efficient building. If I can tell my constituents that I have a green building. But that's market driven and it works. But I think that the lever you're pulling with landlords somehow has to get to their ears, and it's not going to be from the city website. It's going to be from the property managers.
Neat. Anything else before we move on? Okay. So the next project I added was for energy was to pursue Soul Smart designation. This is a no-cost program funded by the U.S. Department of Energy, and they provide technical assistances to communities to help them basically show that they are solar-ready, solar-friendly communities. They help you with codes, policies, programs, all that fun stuff.
I love this idea.
Who does this around us?
A lot of people. I think Boulder, I mean, obviously, definitely. Louisville, I think, does. They actually have a map. You can go on there. I mean, Colorado's littered with people that have already done Soul Smart. Okay, perfect. And then also an energy case said to change the following projects. So change study and pursue geothermal opportunities to study and pursue around source heat pumps, air source heat pumps, and heat pump water heaters. They also said to change study and pursue decentralized solar gardens to study and pursue decentralized solar gardens for city property and low-income households. So just making both more specific from my understanding.
Specifics in the goal are a good thing, so.
Yes. Perfect. And then next case also said to add the project, consider divesting the city's banking from fossil fuel investments. Denver has already done this in 2019. Other cities have done it.
I'm in favor of that. I'm in favor.
Yeah.
I think it does financially wise.
And then I also, so I already reached out to Innovest, who does our investing for the city, and it looks like, oh gosh, on the top of my head, I think almost all of their portfolios follow ESG standards, and there was some United Nations responsible reporting that they all follow too.
What are the ESG standards?
Environmental, social, and government standards. And I can send out more information on this too. I just can't think of it on the top of my head, but I have started digging into this.
And that's what the city uses, you said?
Innovest. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I think that's a good start, and that's like a baseline.
Mm-hmm.
I think there are still ESG rated things that do include fossil fuels, so if we can narrow it down from there. But this seems especially even more timely than probably when it was written, given the Russian oil situation.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to know the percentage of portfolio that's currently tied up, just to have a general idea of how would that impact the amount of revenue the city's pulling. It would cripple the city. But I think it's very important, and Denver did it, and I think it's something we can look at. You have a link here, Mel. Is that a report?
Oh, I just linked to that. Denver did it, so that's just what that link is.
Okay, I could read this westward on my own time. That's fine.
I think if it were done, they could reinvest that allotment of funding into other non-fossil fuel stocks. And from what I've seen, the results are comparable, especially since fossil fuel stocks go like this.
We did that in my personal family's portfolio 2 years ago, and I think it was good timing. Okay, I don't hear any objection to that.
Approved. Great. And then, so this next one, case suggested investigate solar access law. I said don't include just because Soul Smart would cover this.
Okay.
And then case said to add the metric emissions-free heating and water heating by a specific year. I said maybe amend to investigate emission-free heating and water heating for city-owned properties.
Sure.
I don't know what to do with this one. Since it's
I
a
feel the
metric.
same.
It seems like a goal, maybe more than a metric. But do we have anything related to emission-free heating and water heating in any goals?
I mean, we have like carbon reduction, energy use reduction, but we don't have anything besides this around specifically water heating and heating.
Yeah, I don't know what to do with this one.
think
I mean, the city-owned properties, they won't do it until they're replacing existing equipment, right? And then sometimes you're kind of locked into the system you have.
Can we convert this to a goal and make it a study?
Yeah, like a cost assessment.
Does that encompass it? What I wrote?
I think so. It's a good first step.
Yeah, it seems like the best idea for new construction, but I don't know how many new city facilities we're gonna be building. Are there any we've even planned?
Not that I know of.
Not unless this becomes something else and they move.
All right, so we approve.
That's where I think the best place for it. If it is just city properties, then require emission-free heating and water heating for new city properties and investigate something upon equipment replacement. I don't know.
One of my questions, I just think about Maui and the rec center, and I'm sure a significant amount of energy is used to heat water in both of those facilities. I have no idea if they're efficient. I have no idea what the state of the plant is in those places. And I just wonder, somewhere, could there be an opportunity? I mean, I look at the roofs of those buildings and I think, geez, solar hot water, rooftop. I don't know how far-fetched that is. I mean, if the plant is ready for an upgrade or a retrofit, it's probably worth considering. If they just put brand new boilers in 2 years ago, it's not economic, but I, for one, am just curious. And those are just two buildings I'm thinking of. How energy efficient are they? And will there be any opportunities for making them more green and more efficient in the future? They might be very efficient, I don't know.
Or how quickly would the investment pay off for the
Right.
savings?
Right.
Yeah, good point. Can you remind me where in the revised plan is the energy performance contracting or audits of city facilities?
That's in energy.
So maybe we put this there and say, comma, including upgrading heating and water heating to heat pump-based systems. If it's just investigate, if it's part of the audit, like make sure, just specify that it should be part of that audit.
Perfect.
I like that. Fold that in.
Anything else? Okay, so then the next one, Case recommended a metric of kilowatts produced by renewable energy on city property. And then to go one further, I propose percentage of kilowatts from renewable energy used by city-owned buildings and operations, so 2 of them.
Can you repeat that?
Yes, oh, sorry. So Case recommended the metric of kilowatt hours produced by renewable energy on city property. And then I also said and added one onto that would be percentage of kilowatt hours from renewable energy used by city-owned buildings and operations. And that would just be overall, wouldn't have to be on city property.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, good.
Okay, then for natural environment goal, I have a slide on the PowerPoint. I don't know why my computer's not pulling them up, but I said add the outcome for each Englewood block group to attain a score of 75 or higher on the tree equity score analyzer. So I'm gonna try and pull this up.
While you're pulling that up, I love that you acknowledge the equity part of the tree canopy.
Yeah.
I would really like it to specify low water and where feasible. We don't have a ton of of native trees that are low water, but that it's not just generally trees, but
Right.
it's low water and native when feasible.
So this is the tree score. I'm gonna try and go through this super fast. This is the tree score equity analyzer. This is Englewood right here. You can go onto this website, type in Englewood, and it'll tell you each block group of what score it has. This little sore eye right here, this is part of Englewood. We have a score of 24 there. Denver doesn't even have a score that low. So that was one of my recommendations, was to make sure every block group has a score of 75. And you can also all look this up online. So they say it would take 6,918 trees, which is a big feat to get up there, which is why I didn't put a specified year there, but just to have that as a generalized goal to try and get all these block groups up to that level.
Can I ask, I don't understand what a block group is.
So it just goes by like different like census kind of like blocks of Englewood. So.
Okay, but by what method would a block group affect whether they plant prairie grasses or trees?
So this is just for tree canopy.
Yeah.
So this is done by the American Forests. And so they look at tree canopy, heat, unemployment.
I get that, but if I'm in a block group and my block group has a low score, what am I to do about it? In other words,
Mel's gonna help you get.
no, the goal is noble, but I don't know the methodology to attain the goal.
So one of my proposed projects for that is for communities to have community developed urban forestry kind of like plans or canopy plans going forward, so that they themselves can kind of figure out how they want to address it.
Would that be like the neighborhood groups that we have?
It could be neighborhood groups. It could really be any way that people want to form it, and could be up to them. But it's really important that it's community driven for them, for these trees to be planted, and that for them to want it. But
Well, I would think that this group should pay attention and support existing community neighborhood groups, such as Cushing Park. I live in the Cushing Park neighborhood. There's already a group of volunteers. There's already people there. So my thought would be work with what is already there. I mean, what I'm hearing is, would we have to start a new infrastructure or a new committee or something?
I don't think it would.
But Cushing, I think, has a good, probably a much higher score.
Okay, I'm just into the methodology.
Okay.
How, by what method, you set a goal, it's a good goal, but by what method is it going to happen?
One mechanism I've seen Denver use to accomplish that, they have a free tree giveaway each year specifically for areas that have very low tree coverage.
Okay, that's a
And
method.
those tend to correlate with lower income areas, but they say, if you are in these areas, come get your free tree.
Thank you.
And I know Englewood has a tree
Day.
sale.
They have Arbor Day.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Used to be free.
Ah.
Oh, no longer?
It was free when I first moved to Englewood, 2000. We could get a free 2008, 9, 10, 11. I think it was free back then. We got a lot of trees then. We buy one almost every year too. Now that they're selling them, but yeah, it's not free anymore.
So I guess then an opportunity would be, if we do ever receive grant funds or dedicate city dollars just for the priority areas, those could be free, or the others could be raised $5 to pay for it or something like
And
that.
I feel like,
That's a method.
Yeah,
That's what I was just trying to get. How do you get from A to B?
yeah, absolutely. And I feel like this outcome also is just kind of a great way to show the areas that we need to funnel resources if we do have them. But yeah, not,
What is this what is this area? I'm trying to look at this.
Yeah, I know.
Is it a golf course? What is it?
No, that's
so
not
it's
the-
right next to the Walmart Supercenter.
Oh.
So it's that,
Okay.
Okay.
There's that whole concrete area
Yeah.
that
Yep.
Cushing wants to remove the concrete and plant as pollinator habitat. Perfect.
There you go, action item
And-
there.
There you go.
And there you go, Michael. Organized group wants to do it, so.
That'd be
yeah, I
good.
see it more as like a tool and just like a generalized goal, and that's why I put it as the outcome. But again, you all do not have to agree with it by any means. It's just kind of something that I
I think it's great.
Help them plan.
No, I think.
I'll be like, I have
it's
no
great.
money, but I'm gonna
Like
help.
that,
Researchers should go where they're most needed, so it's a good tool.
You've killed more trees.
Yes.
And Walmart should help pay.
I like that. I like that a lot.
They might donate plants and trees.
It'd be cheap. Approved, I think that's.
Okay, perfect. And then this is on the similar line, so Case said to develop a plan to increase tree canopy on city-owned property and privately owned property. I just said amend to develop neighborhood level community-led plans to increase tree canopy, especially in areas with a low tree score.
I'm in favor.
I would love if there would be a second project that would specifically focus on city property where we could add a bunch of trees. It might be similar places where prairie grasses could live, but for instance, on the edge of parks, we could fit a whole lot of trees in there, while still leaving the wide spaces open for frisbees and so forth. And that seems like a city could do that a lot quicker, perhaps.
It also helps with, for back to the residential, helps with the energy efficiency. So maybe it also targets the areas where people are paying a disproportionate amount of their income for energy.
Perfect. So is this approve, disapprove, amend?
I'd approve it if we can just say water efficient trees. Because otherwise it's, we're helping one thing and hurting another, increasing another problems.
Okay, and so then next one I said to add a goal for natural environment to increase green infrastructure strategies where appropriate.
Can I elaborate?
Yeah, oh yes, sorry.
Specifics.
So I was thinking more all-encompassing for green infrastructure of like permeable surfaces, like curb stomp outs, that like Denver uses, trees, native plants would definitely be part of that.
Yeah, that's great. I would just, do you have rainwater harvesting in there?
So I just left it broad. I didn't specify anything.
Yeah, I mean, I'm in favor of it.
You can drill down into specific, broke it out.
Yeah.
I like the rain barrel harvesting idea too.
Yeah, and also just earthworks that direct the water so it gets absorbed and used instead of having to have supplemental irrigation. There's a lot that could be improved there.
Would this impact, I know Denver has restored wetlands where there used to be a stream bed, then there's a parking lot, they truck the parking lot, and they create wetlands, natural sponge absorption. Could Englewood do something like that? I mean, I know there's buried creek beds and things in Englewood. There might be opportunities to do what Denver does, which again would accomplish a lot of what we're describing. Water conservation, percolation, water going down into the ground. I don't know if that could be alluded to or that possibility could be addressed in this section. Because I haven't seen anything on that strategy that I think.
So I think that would fall under habitat restoration.
Okay.
And I think it's a great thing to include as like identify if there are opportunities. And there are definitely grants to apply for those projects. The Butterfly Pavilion partners with a bunch of cities on, they have a bunch of services. They can be, they do habitat restoration and pollinator corridors if the city's interested in doing that. But
I just wanted to include
yeah,
it for a possibility.
Yeah, habitat restoration.
Something down the road.
To explore potential for habitat restoration projects.
Good.
Yeah, that could definitely fall under the broader goal. Does this approve, disapprove?
Mm-hmm.
I think the
Perfect.
broad goal encompasses all of those.
And then Keith said to add the project, incorporate more xeric native, resilient, colorful plants and medians and on the edges of parks instead of concrete or turf. I feel like this is
Yeah, definite, but I don't think we need to limit it to the edges of parks. Like Greeley's doing a 6 acre park of natural habitat and, you know, with trails. So I just would take out anything limiting it. And also, I would say with a focus on creating connected corridors to support pollinators. Bless you.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, you said connected corridors?
Yeah, just so that, like, if you're evaluating where to do these, so there isn't huge gaps so that pollinators can travel from one to another.
Perfect.
And then this seems like where the earlier discussion about inventory of places where
Oh, yep.
Yeah.
concrete, asphalt, or turf could be replaced.
Yeah. And where there's just gravel as a placeholder.
So the one that's in there, incorporate more xeric, is that a project or is that a goal?
As a project proposed by Case.
I feel like it's a goal though.
Sounds to me like it's a goal and then data is the project or the place to start for that goal.
So maybe note change to goal.
Yeah, I'd like it to be even once the inventory's done, like there's a percentage, a number, a target for how much gets replaced. And along with that, there's data on the cost savings of doing this replacement and, you know, the payoff to help sell it.
Anything else on this one? Okay.
Oh, wait, I do. Okay, so reduce the use of glyphosate in parks and open spaces. This sounds like a good goal, but I think it's very limited and not, if you're just gonna say reduce glyphosate, there's a whole arsenal of other herbicides to use. And glyphosate replaced a lot of worse ones. So I would say reduce the use of pesticides. But for this to be successful, there need to be changes to how we landscape. I think we all want there to be less pesticides used, but if we're still maintaining all this turf, we need to do more manual weeding, or we need to have different landscapes. So I think to be successful, there need to be other elements. And if we're gonna reduce them, is the city gonna support more manual weeding? Or, you know, because something needs to be done. Or are we reducing?
More dandelion salads.
They're pretty aggressive, but you could. So I think that's a nod to the pollinator resolution, but it's not really meaningful without more. So could there be something to amend that?
So amend
In the first one is reduce the use of glyphosate in parks and open spaces.
Oh, okay, so amend this one. Okay.
Amend it to say pesticides, but it's got to also say you know, increase increase manual weeding if we're gonna eliminate this, and landscape differently so that there's less need for the pesticides. And tell people to, you know, and education, I think, is part of it also. Understanding dandelions and not complaining.
No more complaining.
That's what
in the city of Englewood.
I mean,
Anything else before I move on to the next one?
I have a question. Walking around my neighborhood, I see a lot of houses that have taken out their lawns and replaced it with either mulch or anything from a pebble to a river rock. Is
and nothing living.
No, that's it.
I
That's
know.
kind of it. I mean, they might have some kind of a native grass or something, but not much. Is that water efficient? Mulch
Yeah, but it
and
doesn't
stone?
do anything else. I mean,
Right.
you're not watering it, but how are you keeping weeds out if nothing's growing there?
Well, not, you got weeds growing up through the river rock.
So that wouldn't count in a turf replacement program.
So this is residential, and I think you're mostly focusing on city stuff. But there are a lot of Englewood households that are doing that, just because they don't want to water and mow a yard. And so that's their way out. So, you can do all this stuff with the city, but is it being counteracted against by the residents?
So I know, I totally agree, and I think that the city needs to lead by example.
Mm-hmm.
And there needs to be education around it. There need to be signs identifying what people are seeing, because it's different. It's different from the annuals that people have been seeing in the city park garden beds. So, but I think modeling it and having education and information about the savings and the benefits. I haven't even been talking about the whole biodiversity part of it, but it's really, really important that
Which could be something that could be done at the Englewood functions, like the block party and stuff like that.
That's what I was thinking. Right, we can give out native seed packets.
Yeah, there you go.
Land. I would like to see the city provide more resources and education online and videos to help people landscape differently.
So I don't know if that goes in here anywhere.
The commission has to vote.
I'd like to just ask, how are we on time?
Well,
Until the 2-hour mark.
Yeah,
We still have about 2 pages to get through on the.
I know, we're gonna.
the suggested changes, and we have 2 more agenda items. I don't know if we can pick this up at a future meeting, or if we should just churn it out. I don't know if we have a time limit.
So the idea with this is, not that it couldn't go be delayed, but right now it's on the docket to be approved by council on the 21st.
Sure.
So,
I'd like to get through.
You guys can crank through the rest of it.
Yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
that would be
Great.
ideal. I just wanted to
Anything else on
be.
the agenda, Jez, and it.
Okay. That's-
Except for you haven't even gotten to what I'm here for.
Oh, we're getting to it, don't worry.
The
We will?
composting
Okay.
will be next, yeah.
Okay.
Okay,
So
onward.
for the next one, Kay said to change clean and connected transportation to clean and connected transportation.
Mhm.
Approved, okay, perfect. And then I just said to add a project to conduct an employee commuter survey for the city employees to see kind of our carbon footprint, and then also for us to investigate kind of green commuter programs for city employees.
Good.
Great. The next one, Kay said to investigate the Go EV City commitment. Boulder, Denver, other places have done this, and it's basically a pledge to develop an EV action plan and ways to get to zero emission vehicles.
Yeah.
Great. And then for waste and recycling, now we're on to that one, I said to add increase public education and outreach around waste reduction because we didn't have education in there prior.
I'm all for more public education on these issues, so approved.
I think it's the most important part. Okay, and then I said to add the goal for waste and recycling to just add composting for the goal. Happy.
And
oh,
Sorry, I was just gonna say I love to see that composting's on there. I feel like that's something that residents have been talking a lot about too. So I'm glad you edited it to include that.
Perfect. Love to hear it. And then for waste and recycling, I also said to add a project to explore a composting program at city facilities and track tonnage collected.
I like tracking the tonnage.
Perfect. And then
Is it possible to explore the city having a site where people could drop off yard waste and organic material year round as opposed to just the 2 Saturdays a year?
So explore avenues to dropping off organic materials year round, right?
Yeah.
Well, seasonally, it's not you, but like in the fall.
I've seen, I don't know, at least a half dozen cities around here that have something like that. Just drop it off.
Oh, so sorry, seasonally or year round?
Well, you're saying more than 2 days, but we don't need it in the winter, is all I'm saying. That's, like, no one's.
You're differentiating between yard waste and because you can compost all year round, but you're
we're
specifically talking about
yard waste, yeah.
You could leave it general enough where that would be discussed.
Perfect. And then Case said to add the project, investigate requiring commercial and multifamily buildings to offer recycling. And they also said to investigate a policy for construction waste diversion. And then they also said investigate composting programs and communication strategies.
Yes, approve.
Approved.
Perfect. And then our final one, we made it. Okay, water protection. Case just said revise, hold annual river cleanup event to hold annual river and stream cleanup event.
Love it. I would sign up right now.
Great. Okay, is there anything else around this?
No.
Okay, and then I can write up all this stuff and send it out to the commission members so you all have notes of it too, for it.
And can I add 3 really quick things? One, I forgot in community resilience, kids' education around the environment and pollinators.
Oh, cool.
It's essential, next generation. And with waste and recycling, explore with the big item pickup, often those could be donated. So some connecting to restore or some art,
I'm sorry, big item pickup at where?
So the city picks up like big items that people dump in their alleys and trying to repurpose those or donate them rather than send them to landfills. And my last one is a insect-friendly outdoor lighting bulb replacement program. And I'll stop.
I have a question. When you're talking about composting in city buildings, does that include schools?
Not that I was under the impression of, but.
No, because they're a separate political entity, but
Yeah.
it's something that we could certainly collaborate with them on, but they're separate.
Because that would tie in with the education piece of it.
Anything else around goals, projects, plans? Perfect.
Is there a motion to approve the recommendations that we gave to?
That we approved.
Moved, a second.
Can I ask one question? You guys, this is just a lot to digest and it went through it really quickly. There was a line item on here to remove any like investments in the city's portfolio for fossil fuels. Is that correct?
So it was to investigate divesting. It wasn't to do it, it was to investigate doing it.
Okay.
Any other thoughts, Rachel?
I'm just, like oil and gas is a really big industry in Colorado. So I understand the purpose and, I'm all about being energy efficient, but to draw a hard line there, I have problems with it.
I sort of raised a similar concern, and I was okay with the idea that could be a study. We look into it, see the financial impact on the city, and then also compare that to see what Denver did. I know Mel had noted in there that Denver did this 3 years ago. So if we could take a look at that and see, sort of do a comparative analysis. I think that was the group consensus that was okay.
Okay.
The motion is to approve. Moved by Michael. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Dan.
Great. And then if it's okay with you, I'll jump into the composting up.
Yep.
We got it.
Oh, never mind. I was just testing you. It's your first day.
Good, thanks. So all those in favor of approving the recommended changes to the city sustainability plan tonight, say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
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 Any objection? Unanimous approval? Good. Thank you, Mel. Thanks for walking us through
Amazing
that.
job.
Yeah, thank you all I really appreciate y'all's time.
We have 1 minute to jump through this. Can we get into the composting update?
Oh,
I know that's why Kathy's patiently waited for about 2 hours. So I will quit talking and hand the mic over, and let's get through this.
Okay, so our composting updates. So after our meeting last time, Dana, Kathy, and some other community members met kind of around best next steps for composting, and we kind of said that education and outreach is really important, and it's something that is missing right now. And so Kathy's doing such amazing work, and so is Molly and Patty. So if anyone is interested in, or
I'm just not doing much work.
I'm
not sure what you're talking about.
A lot of emails.
But they're trying to coordinate kind of on the ground education and outreach around composting. So that is in the works. And then also, so the Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment said that in the spring, they didn't say exactly when, they're going to drop a grant around waste diversion. And so the city has flagged that. And so we're exploring the idea of city building-wide composting. And so I've been working with Compost Colorado, Zach already told you, about getting quotes and from other companies, just so that when it does drop, if we fall within that purview, we're ready to go and we're ready to apply. So hopefully that will be a thing going forward.
So has Zach drawn anything up? Has he made any kind of?
Yep, so we have a quote from them, and we would fall, so the grant is gonna be between $5,000 to $25,000, this one by CDPHE in the spring. And so he wrote us up a quote and tried to help us kind of toggle so we would stay within that $25,000 limit if we applied. So he's just been awesome, but we're also gonna look at other companies too. We're not just gonna look at Compost Colorado to kind of get the best quote if we do get this grant and go forward with it. But that's where we're at now. We're definitely on the exploratory phase, but looking forward to spring when they drop it.
And one thing Compost Colorado does is if you participate with them, they give you compost back, which not everybody does.
And and then my final update on that was just that Englewood Engaged Talk and Trash project. They have their single hauler survey. It does have questions about composting, so go on there, fill it out, send it to your neighbors, and the deadline is March 14th. But that
Town hall sessions on the single hauler tomorrow and Thursday, is that right?
So it's tonight.
Oh, tonight.
Tonight was one of them, and then the other one is on Thursday, and you can find that on the Englewood Engaged Trash and Talks page too.
Great.
So this is to explore it on a citywide scale or city drop-off opposed to individual composting.
So I believe on their survey one, they are gauging kind of interest in compost generally, and then right? Impose interest generally, yeah, and then going from there.
And since we had talked also about teaching people how to compost in their backyards, if they have backyards, is that something also being pursued?
From what I know of right now, besides the education and outreach that we're kind of talking on a very grassroots level, not that I know of.
The only thing I know is that, I don't know if you saw it or not, but there was a thing from Denver. They have workshops. They probably had 30 or 40 of them. And I don't know why we would have to provide a workshop if they're doing it. And we could just let people know to go to that workshop.
We might have more participation if we offered it in people's neighborhoods. And since Molly seemed potentially interested in doing that, but we could, in the meantime, just let people know about the Denver workshops.
Yeah, which don't really, well, I think they start this month. So where we're at with Compost Colorado is we're just waiting to see if we get this grant to pay for it? Or is there money somewhere in the city budget that could do it if we don't get a grant?
So we're currently just exploring if we get a grant.
Okay. And if we do get a grant, then we can get proposals from or do we get the proposals first?
So if the grant, we fall within that purview, we would submit, the company that we would use and everything, and if they fund it, then we would go through with it.
So are we gonna hear any more from Zach about what his proposal is, or?
So we have his we have his quote for the city. And so he has us around the $25,000 range, which is normal. And then if this grant drops, then we get applied for it. And if we get it, then we go through with the proposal.
And his proposal is just putting bins in different buildings and have people.
So it's for every city building. And then it's bins. And then for the rec center, it's these like really nice compost bins. It's the whole shebang.
So would it be the rec center and the Malley Center? But not the schools?
Not schools, but it would be Civic, Malley, all the kind of big ones.
Okay, and is there some kind of something to let city employees and rec center employees know what you can put in this bin?
I believe that they, also when they give you everything, that they have signage and everything for people.
So when do we know about if we fit in the purview?
Once they drop the grant in spring, but they haven't released when that is. They just said sometime this spring.
So that would be before June 20th.
Hopefully.
That is the first day of summer.
Mel, will you make sure Kathy, if you don't already have her email, will you make sure you all have
We have each other's
information?
yeah.
Sounds like there could be a greater discussion here too. Earth Day is April 22nd. I would think that we could move discussion to the next April meeting on how we want to get involved there, if we want to do anything in addition to what South Platte Renew is doing at Centennial. If that's okay, I would make a motion to adjourn for the evening, and I think we've had a very productive.
And do what on the 22nd?
Earth Day is on April 22nd,
Yeah.
so that gives us enough time to bump the agenda item to our April meeting the first week.
You mean the next agenda item or this one for composting?
The next one, not composting.
Okay.
Awesome, thanks
Thanks
everybody.
for
Thanks for staying so late.
It was really interesting, and I gotta say, I'm impressed with what you doing.
We tried.
Glad you made it.
You guys got two.
That was a lot to go over.
But you seem to know, so that's a good thing.
Good work. Yeah, that's good. I know what we were getting into, I think. Michael, good to meet you. Shifting gears. I like that. Yeah. Yeah.
So that'd be great.
Just one thing.
Cool again, but I thought.
So you're obviously new on, so.
But now.
Well, well.
You know,
I hear you.
I'm gonna,
Make it worth going.
I'm an old timer. It's okay.
My buddy who was in
What?
Delaware and